Medicaid expansion. I think it's going to happen partly today and partly tomorrow. The budget will be in its second reading today. Its third reading and final passage, which should be tomorrow. That's what I expect to happen. The Senate isn't even meeting today. They're not meeting until tomorrow, which tells me that they're the problem, not us in the House of Delegates. We're doing our job again, which is really good. And thank you all for being here from everywhere, from Caroline and Hanover and Norfolk and Henrico and Arlington and Shenandoah. I think we're getting most of the state covered.
We're geographically dispersed.
That's good. That's good to show the geographic. It's got to happen. It's got to happen. It's rare that you find something that's a true win-win in government. Usually it's, this is a good program, but it costs this much money, and so we have to, spend more money or give up the program, and so, just hard choices. This is that rare example where it's absolute win-win. We get the money and we get the people. We get 400,000 Virginians and $400 million. What's the problem with that? We also, and of course the $400 million is direct from the federal government, but it adds up to being about $1.7 billion when you add all the economic benefits of people having health care and not being out sick all the time. And, I know in Southwest Virginia, they still have Doctors Without Borders coming in, doing, giving dental care, it really is. Third world country, when they do it in Haiti, where we're proud of what they do, when they do it in Southwest Virginia, shame on us.
Right.
We shouldn't have to have that.
They came to Northern Neck too.
And look, I'm glad they do it. Don't get me wrong. It's a vital need. I'm just ashamed as Virginians that we need third world help in our own Commonwealth. And here, like I said, it's win-win. It's not like, the bridge is good, but it costs money. No, we get the money and we get 400,000 people with health care. This will save lives. This will save thousands of lives. And everybody's better off. So I'm really proud to see that in the House of Delegates that, of course, you have every Democrat on board, but a third of our Republicans, more than a third of our Republicans, the vote was 68 to 32 in the House. It wasn't close. It was a substantial vote.
A lot of crossover. And
there's a lot of crossover, including the Speaker. I'm not always praising the Speaker, but I will praise him on this.
How about Tom Gilbert?
I don't think he crossed over.
I don't think so.
No, I don't think so.
But Speaker Cox did. That's
yeah.
What is your name?
I'm sorry. I'm Delegate Mark Levine.
Okay.
I represent Alexandria, Arlington, and Fairfax. Most of my district's the eastern half of Alexandria, but I have some proud Arlington and Fairfax precincts. I have told some of my fellow delegates to join us today. So hopefully we'll get more people as the hour grows. We're going to be in caucus at 3. And we're going to be in session at 4. So if you come all the way down here, I hope you'll come and sit up in the up there in the gallery and watch us. I'm happy to introduce y'all. It's Virginians for Medicaid Expansion, and welcome you formally to the Capitol when you get here today. So come in the chamber and join us and watch us do our work. I suspect that today we will do the second read on the budget. Can't promise you because I don't know until it happens. But I suspect that what will happen, and we'll get that done, and then it'll be on our way to final passage tomorrow. As I said, tomorrow we have a whole bunch of other things going on. We also have the reconvene session, and we've got to deal with the governor's vetoes and the governor's amendments. That's what we normally come back here for. The budget is not something we normally come back here for. But I really think our chamber will do what it needs to do. And I have to say, I think some Senate Republicans are coming around. You've read the news reports that I've read. It's good news. They haven't agreed on all the details yet, so it's not a done deal until it happens. But I'm just to see all of you here from all over the Commonwealth. It really pleases me. People need to know that these are real people's lives.
That's right.
They need to know that this isn't some theoretical question. This is a question of whether people get health care or not.
That's right.
So please come join us. Join us.
Virginia State Black Caucus Chair.
Wonderful. Maybe she wants to speak as well. Any of you can tell your own stories. Yeah.
Well, I know this is is about Medicaid, but these signs of the pictures of Virginia really remind me that there is a woman not much younger than I am sitting in a tree defending her land against pipelines, and the militarized police are defending the corporation that's starving her out. They're not allowing food in. They took down the drone that was delivering food and water to this woman sitting in a tree since April 1st. And you know what kind of weather we've had during this time. Tomorrow morning there is a rally. There's a press conference tomorrow morning, and I hope that everyone will come back for that, and that you and your colleagues will help support defending our land, our personally owned land, which is, of course, we can't really own land, but against these corporations who are slicing their way through Virginia.
Last Medicaid expansion in Virginia. Literally, you've got tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people who could benefit. Women, kids. An interesting factoid came out recently from the Commonwealth Institute. They had estimates of the number of people in every House of Delegates district that could benefit from Medicaid expansion. I represent Arlington County. Arlington County and southern Arlington and eastern Fairfax. The one thing about my district is that it's the world in a zip code. It's literally hundreds of languages. There are 58 languages spoken by my local high school, Wakefield High School. But Arlington is also, and Fairfax is also, they're two of the most wealthy communities in the entire country, if not the entire world. Arlington is regularly ranked in the top 5 as the most educated county, one of the most educated counties in America. Of the 100 districts in the House of Delegates, my district, the 49th district, has the fourth highest number of people who could benefit from Medicaid expansion, 5,600, 6% of my district. Women, kids, families. And
It's not a question about money.
it's not a question about money.
It's about background.
Here's the thing. This is why this is so very important to me. My wife and I were blessed to have a brand new baby back in June of last year. And he was born prematurely. And we got the bill. Now he's happy, he's healthy, he's great now. But we got the bill 4 or 5 months after he came home. It was over $600,000. $600,000. So, and I was blessed to have incredible insurance. My wife and I, our family, we were fine. Insurance paid for it. Think about the family that has a baby born prematurely. Think about the family that's struck down by a horrible disease or in a horrific accident. Healthcare could be devastating for their finances. Devastating. Because the fact is, if I had to pay over $600,000, I would have had to sell my house. Think about what that means in other parts of the state for other families. So, thank you all for being here. Thank you for showing the support. We're gonna get this done. We have to get this done. And I really appreciate you being here today. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Y'all should know, it's really interesting, is the Republicans who've opposed this for years and years and years. Their argument, it's really hard to make an argument against something where we get $400 million and help 400,000 people, right? It's really hard to say, we help people and it helps the budget, we're against it. But their argument was this. Their argument was, well, even though when it started, the federal government is paying for 100% of it, that will go down, and under the Affordable Care Act can go down as low as only 90% of it. Only 90% would be paid for by the federal government. When I say federal government, it's all of us. It's Virginia taxpayers, right? You make a certain income, and people file taxes today, and that pays for Medicaid expansion. And all that was going to other states. So it's us, we've already paid for it. But in any case, their argument was it might go down to only 90%. And so the hospitals, and I'm raising this because you mentioned the hospitals, stepped up to the plate, and the hospitals said, well, now wait a minute. Because we don't have Medicaid expansion, it's really hard on hospitals. The reason it is because if you can't afford health care, then you have to go to the emergency room. And you might go to the emergency room for something that's not an emergency, or even worse, you might have a condition that could have been treated, and because it wasn't treated, you have to go to the emergency room. I always give the example of heart pills, right? If you need pills to control your blood pressure, those might be expensive. They might be $100 a month. But if you need emergency bypass heart surgery, that's a lot more expensive, right? That's tens of, first they cut open your chest cavity and you never really completely heal. It's not as good as the heart medication, but that might cost $100,000 instead of $100 a month. So hospitals realize, not just because they want to help people, but to their bottom line, that if they paid for every penny that the federal government didn't pay, if they paid for the full 10%, the Virginia budget would not cost a nickel. None of the Virginia taxpayers would pay a penny. We wouldn't have to put it in our budget. The federal government covers the rest. And hospitals actually save money because an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So by treating people normally rather than the emergency room, that actually saves hospitals money. So the hospitals agreed, to their credit, to give us every single penny that the federal government doesn't pay for. And that's in this budget.
The hospitals in Virginia?
The hospitals in Virginia are paying for every penny the federal government doesn't pay for. None of it, zero, comes out of our budget. Now, this was actually offered last year. It's a deal that could have been taken last year. It wasn't. But it is being taken this year, at least in the House of Delegates. Indeed, one of the disagreements between the two Republican senators who both said they want to expand Medicare is one of them doesn't want to make the hospitals pay for it. I disagree with him on that. But hopefully he'll come around to our view. And you could say it's very generous to the hospitals, and it is in a sense, but actually you understand why it makes sense for their bottom line. So it's win, 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 right? Everybody wins. We get money from the federal government, we get money from the hospitals, costs go down, and 400,000 people get coverage. Some 70 to 80% of bankruptcies in the United States of America have to do with healthcare.
They do.
People are living paycheck to paycheck. They're surviving. They can provide for the rent or the mortgage payment or the food. But then mom gets sick, right? Then your husband has a health need. And it just wasn't planned for. And if you've got good coverage through your employer, that's great. And if you don't, well, are you going to let your loved one die? Are you going to say, sorry, Mom, maybe we could save you, maybe we can't. Oh, well, I loved you, right? No, you're going to sell the house, right? You're going to scrounge your savings. You're going to max out on your credit cards. And you're going to declare bankruptcy. All because Virginia, heretofore, did not take this huge stack of federal dollars, $400 million, just sitting there ready to help, that Virginians have already paid for. It just doesn't make logical sense. It just doesn't. So, yeah.
We're working. This was back 4 years ago when we first started.
If you include working, and you include people who are disabled, unable to work, or people who are taking care of loved ones, so, they're taking care of children or taking care of an elderly person, now we're talking well over 95%. And so I know there is a work requirement in the House bill. Frankly, I don't support it. I think healthcare is a right, not a privilege. I don't think we should let people die from a preventable disease. But that being said, as currently drafted, it affects relatively few people. Because if you're working, or if you're disabled, or if you're taking care of someone, so philosophically I'm opposed to it. But I can tell you that I'm certainly not going to throw away 95% because it doesn't cover 100%. So we might have to swallow that pill to get Medicaid expansion passed.
Do you know how many children would be covered if the bill is passed?
I don't have an exact number on that. I'm sorry. I know it's 400,000 Virginians.
How many kids?
But you know, one of the best things about the Affordable Care Act is it covers kids, right? And you know, the federal government isn't always good on that, right? We've had S-CHIP funding, state children's health insurance program. You know, they have it, then they take it out, then they fight over it. So this is one of those basic things, right? Someone is covered until they're 26. And, you know, for all the people that blame adults for whomever, whatever, are we going to somehow tell a 5-year-old, sorry, you have leukemia, we're not going to help you, you're too poor? It's the basic values, what this is all about.
Again, the middle, you know, people that are just a little bit more than poverty line who
That's
can't
right.
qualify, but
That's right.
I don't believe $20,000 falls below the poverty line, but I sure can't afford my son's medical conditions if he wasn't covered by Medicaid. And it's scary to think that if I go in there and I try to get insurance coverage for him, that he's actually going to lose coverage because the insurance isn't going to take up as much as the Medicaid does. So it's incredibly difficult to see that we can't just get everybody get behind the fact that children need to be covered. People that are born into circumstance they didn't ask to be born. You know, it shouldn't matter what their parents' income background is. So
You know, the vast majority of health conditions aren't people's fault. Okay, if somebody smokes and they get lung cancer, you can say, well, you probably shouldn't have smoked. But the vast majority of conditions, it could be genetic, it could be a virus they catch, it could be something like diabetes or premature birth. I'm sure your daughter did nothing wrong. I'm sure you did nothing wrong. I mean, when did we get this idea that some, I mean, there's a this philosophical question. I don't think most poverty, frankly, is people's choice. And I certainly don't think most healthcare conditions are people's choice. And rather than blaming people, to me, we should all be about helping people. To me, that's what government is supposed to be about. And God forbid, any of us who are healthy could become unhealthy at a moment's notice. I have a cousin who was in great health and relatively young man and had a heart attack and died just recently. You just never know when you're going to need it. And to me, the whole purpose of health insurance is that we're all here, we're all healthy now, and that we can all relax knowing that if something were to happen to us, we'd be covered. And part of it is just that, even if you don't need it, the fact that you could sleep at night, knowing that if something, God forbid, were to happen to you or a member of your family, they would be covered. Just that sort of satisfaction, that's what they have in every other industrialized country on earth. That's what they have in Canada and England and France and Japan and New Zealand and you name it. They all have it. And I mean, that's why, frankly, at some point I think we need Medicare for all, which I support. But,
Yes.
This is a
Single
step-
payer.
But this is a step forward.
It's a step.
This is a step forward. It's a step in the right direction. And I think we're going to get there. I really do. And I just really appreciate it. If others of you want to, it's not about me, if others of you want to share your stories about your daughter or
Yeah, sure.
yeah.
This is my daughter, Charlie. She's pretty popular up on Capitol Hill. We've been working for healthcare. She was born at 26 weeks gestation. She weighed 1 pound, 11 ounces. And my husband had coverage when she was born. I had severe preeclampsia and they had to deliver her because we were both dying. His coverage wasn't enough. Fortunately, in the NICU, she qualified for institutional Medicaid, and then later she got a Medicaid waiver, and she started kindergarten last fall. She got her chance. Now every kid deserves a chance and needs coverage. Also, as happily as her story turned out, my husband and I have struggled. Even with coverage, we've had to take lousy care of ourselves in order to pay for her care. And like you said, Medicare for all is the way to go, but right now, if we can expand Medicaid, I'll be happy today. So let's get it done. I just talked to the delegate going back, and he said, we're in the minority, it's gonna be hard, I don't know how we're gonna do it. Well, guess what? We were in the minority when we fought for the ACA. We were in the minority when we beat the skinny bill, so we can do this. We need to keep showing up. You need to get in there and fight like hell, but I know you already are. And just don't stop until we get it done. So,
Thank you for sharing.
yeah.
I don't know if you could put on the moment to speak, but she's fantastic. She's one of our new freshmen up there in Loudoun County. and another county. Frederick County.
And Clark.
And
I
Clark
live
County.
in Clark.
She lives in Clark, and she's fantastic, and she, of course, Float for Medicaid Expansion has been helping us. I don't know if I put you on the spot, if you have a few words to say about Medicaid Expansion.
I would be glad to. A lot of the reason I ran at all, and I only thought of this 8 months before Election Day. I only really started running 6 months before Election Day. The whole reason I started was trying to get care for my brother, who struggled with PTSD and alcoholism. And we had suicide attempts, some really horrific ones. And for 2015, 2016, I had been the one trying to help him and trying to get him the care, and discovering how hard it was to get him the care he deserved because of the PTSD. He hadn't worked for years. He had no insurance. I was finally able to get him Medicaid, but it wasn't easy. And through all that, it made me realize how many people don't have what they need. I announced my candidacy at the end of February last year, and 10 days later I found him dead. After having been a candidate for a mere 10 days, I like to think that no one would have blamed me for quitting. But after several years of working so hard to get him care, I had met so many families, so many people like him, so many social workers, nurses, doctors, all around, caregivers, EMTs, police who work so hard to care for people who need care. And I realized I could not quit. So that's a lot of what drove my campaign. It's what makes me very happy to be here today instead of the guy I beat. I do believe, I'm an optimist. I do believe we will get this done. I don't know that it will be today, but I believe we'll get it done. And keep making noise. It's how I got here, and it's how we'll get it done. So thank you very much for caring. Thank you.
Washington, Shenandoah, Charlottesville now, Henrico, Hanover, Caroline County, which is right in front of me, Chesterfield, Prince William, Albemarle, all right, Clark, there you go, Alexandria. So, no, really, thank you for being here, and all of you really should. If you haven't been, how many of you have sat in on a session before? How many of you have not? I hope all of you will consider coming in, watching us today. I think the budget will be what we deal with today, although we probably won't do the final vote on it until tomorrow. And people need to know that you're here.
Can we bring signs in?
I don't know.
I think they will not let you.
I don't
signs.
think
Okay.
so, but you can leave them outside the door and then pick them up again.
But we can identify as part of Medicaid.
I will
expansion
stand up and introduce
advocates,
you as Virginians for Medicaid.
because they'll seat us together if we identify the ushers and
And
tell them.
I will stand up and introduce you as Virginians for Medicaid.
And what time is that?
It'll be at 4:00. We have a caucus meeting at 3, so we're gonna have to go. We're not here last year, they switched. Now we got to talk to the ones in the Senate.
Can I mention, on my website, I shared an article about the Brookings Institute. They did a survey of all the research, and it lists they surveyed 202 studies about the states who have expanded Medicaid and how it worked out for them. And a huge percentage of it, overwhelmingly the majority, is positive. And so if you come up against dissenters, or if your own delegate is a dissenter, find that article, share it with your delegate, because that's evidence-based research. So Brookings Institute, look it up.
I would say that most of the Republicans that have switched on this fall in one of two camps. Either they just barely won re-election in 2017, or they're from Southwest Virginia, surrounded by Kentucky and West Virginia. Right. And these communities are really struggling. They are really struggling, and they don't need the cost of health care to add to their struggles. And they're representing their constituents, and we're glad to have them join us, as they should.
Another thing, another sad effect. My district, I'm District 10, which is Leesburg, parts of Loudoun, Clark, and Frederick counties. I don't have hospital systems in my district, but I'm bookended by Valley Health and Innova. Wonderful hospital systems. The millions and millions and millions of dollars and the hours and hours of care that they give away is astounding. One of the things Medicaid expansion would do is hire, I've heard numbers from 20 to 30,000 new healthcare workers. That is an economic benefit that would go all over this state. That's not something that would just like a beautiful company, a tech company that parks itself in Northern Virginia and just hires locally. This is a benefit for the entire state, every community. That's another thing that you might say to your dissenting delegate.
Or your dissenting senator at the moment, which is just a bigger problem.
Yeah, your dissenting senator. So it supports our healthcare systems. It supports our law enforcement systems because police officers make very expensive babysitters. And a huge part of what they do is pick up the people with mental health, substance abuse issues, and look after them until they can let them out the door again. But that's not a cure. That's not a fix. So then they're doing that again in a few weeks. So your law enforcement officers would benefit from the $300 million that would be put into the system for the care of those with mental health and substance abuse issues. So that's another talking point for your senator.
Can we get a picture? I'd like to be in front of all of you with Wendy.
That'd be great.
Get a picture of all. This seems very Facebook worthy.